Final hour OverDrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Gerry's After Dark later in the hour. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Steve Phillips coming up here in a moment. First day of NHL camps. I just saw Jay on SC tweeting out that there's an updated headshot of Brandon Tanev doing his his annual tradition of just staring at the camera like a lunatic. And that's his thing, man. And he looks very intense, and he's ready to play.
I thought he might have packed it in this year, but he did it again.
That's his thing, man. He's been doing it. Was Pittsburgh where he did it first?
Yes.
He did it in Pittsburgh, and now obviously he's in Seattle. He's such a good player, man. The Tanev brothers are both really good players.
Man.
Good guys.
Gamers,
They come
really
to play.
good players.
Yeah, they come to play. They're good guys, too. Really good guys.
But yeah, Chris, there it is, up on TSN 2. A tradition like no other, unlike any other. Seattle's an interesting team because, like, when they came on, it was pretty. I wouldn't say the expectations were high immediately, but because of what Vegas had already accomplished, they were higher than any other expansion team ever. And the first year they came out decently. They made the playoffs the second year, and then it's kind of fallen off ever since. And now they kind of feel like they've just blended into the league a little bit. You know, like they're relatively new, very new. Yet I don't get the impression like a lot of people are even focusing on Seattle going into a new year.
Well, I think they're a good team, and some of the young guys got to push through. Shane Wright will play for them. You know, they've got Matty Beniers, who's a really nice player. They've got some good players there. They filled it out.
Beniers didn't have a good year last year, though.
He
struggled, man.
Problem and
they got Montour. Like they got some good players.
Yeah.
In that division too, there's openings to push through, but they've got to go and earn it. Like that's the one thing I don't know. Maybe that's a poor attitude of mine. Coming into this season, I'm looking more at like, okay, what did you do last year? How are you going to improve on it this year? Like I'm not going, okay, watch for that team because I feel like I've been burned. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say I think that team can be better.
You've learned your lesson. You're not going to be as bold and optimistic.
What? It was every year with Winnipeg. It was like this team.
I'm not doing it with
every
them.
year with Winnipeg.
Ottawa,
last couple of years
thing.
with Ottawa, I'm like, you know what?
Always.
Ottawa's turned the corner. I think they're there.
Rebuild's over.
There's a chance, and like I say, you wanted good things to happen to these people and these teams, but they got to go out and earn it and prove it for me.
Yep.
That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And listen, it's cool to have everyone back in camp, and camps are open league-wide, and there's news everywhere, and players are talking, and everyone's in the best shape they've ever been in, and everyone's feeling great, and the coach is going to give either a new coach bump or an old coach bump, or we're going to work on different special teams. It's the same thing every year. And yet, the season offers up different storylines every single season.
How long do you think it'll take for a dumpster fire to come across your
It'll
desk?
be quick.
10 games.
It'll be by the end of the month. Yeah, I would say by November 1st we'll be talking about a dumpster fire somewhere. Because we were by November 1st in Edmonton. Remember they lost 8-0 to Vancouver, I believe, opening night.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, was it 8-0 or 9-2 or
It was
something?
something.
8-0 or 8-1, and then I think they played back to back.
They
and
did.
They
They
lost
lost
the next
4-3.
one like 3-1 or
Yes.
something.
Yeah, they lost 4-3 the next one, but it was the goalie stole it. Casey DeSmith was unbelievable. Everton deserved to win that game. But then afterwards, they went out east, and they lost a bunch of games, and they couldn't get it back.
I'm telling you, it was November 1st. We're like, something is not right in Edmonton, and there will be a team on November 1st
Hey,
where
you know
we
what?
will
You got
circle.
tomorrow you got your positive outlook on the Leafs Hazy B list.
Mm-hmm.
The one after that could be potential dumpster fires. 5 potential
dumpster fire. That's not far off the hot seat. It's not far off the hot seat.
Forget it. We're not doing that.
I don't want to give out a dumpster fire because, how would you define a dumpster fire?
Okay, how about this? How about this? The third week of November, write this down, Doogie. Potential dumpster fires. We're creeping up on dumpster fires because that'll be it. Third week of October.
Well, we could do the turkey dump on the American side of things. Right? We can do the dumpster fire for American Thanksgiving. On American Thanksgiving, I will give you a list, the 5 dumpster fires. Now, again, we have to define what this means because I'm fairly certain San Jose is going to be a dumpster fire again. But that's not surprising. I don't think Anaheim's going to be great. I still don't think Chicago's ready to compete. I think Columbus is going to struggle. But I think what we mean by this is teams with high expectations, or at least relatively decent expectations, that are nowhere close to meeting them, right?
Right.
That's what we're talking about. And I don't know if we'll have 5 of them. I don't know if there will be 5 teams. Because if you're shrinking the league down, you're talking 20 to 22 teams that would fit that definition, where you think they should be in the playoffs or in the playoff hunt. Right. 10 of these teams, I got a pretty good idea, won't be there. Right. And I won't be surprised if on November 23rd or whatever, they're not there. That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. No, I know what you're saying. There might be, there's probably going to be 2 or 3 dumpster fires, which you could point out.
100%.
That.
Maybe more.
Might not get to 5, though. I don't think you're going to get to 5.
I got a couple ideas on it. I got a dumpster fire lean. I got a couple of dumpster fire leans. But, yeah.
Give me one lean on a potential dumpster fire without I know you don't want to go down this road.
Vancouver scares me. I'm going to say Vancouver.
Come on,
I'm going to say Vancouver scaring me a little bit.
Two things I could point to that could support your claim without even.
It's a damn joke
Demko's health.
No, I know.
Demko's health.
Demko's health. Dakota Josh was, surgery, injury. So those
and
are
everything broke their way last year. I know we're not a PDO-driven program here, but shooting percentages were pretty high. Save percentage was pretty high. I think
take it back. I didn't want to ask the question. And
crazy thing is,
go.
I think I was leading the charge 2-3 weeks into last year, saying I believe in this team. I loved what I saw to them early, and they proved me right, and a lot of people right.
They were great all year. They deserved it, but I
like that segment though. The dumpster fire.
Dumpster
lean.
fire. The
dumpster
fire
lean.
Okay, I got some leans. I'm looking over a list of teams right now, and I'm leaning.
Wow.
I'm leaning. Chicago lost again last night. They lost. Not that this is a surprise, but the White Sox are now 36-116. They have a 237 win percentage.
That's not good.
Being anywhere close to 350 is basically unheard of. If you're hanging around 350, it's you are really horrendous. Colorado's 386. The Marlins are 371. These guys, that's how bad it is. And the Angels are horrible, and the Angels spanked them last night. To talk about that, among many other things, here's our TSN MLB insider, Steve Phillips. Steve, I know we've asked you before, and I believe your answer has been confirming that you think this White Sox team is the worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. But I'm curious, if they pass the 62 Mets, if they end up with 121 losses, how do you put this into perspective? When someone asks you 10 years from now, tell me about that 2024 White Sox team, how will you define them?
Oh, for sure. They're absolutely the worst team in the history of the game. Mm-hmm. And think of it this way. They're 43 games out of 4th place.
Yes.
They're 43 games out of 4th place.
Right.
I mean, they're 43 games out of 4th place in that division, behind the Detroit Tigers. And now the Tigers are good for a 4th place team, but still, it's one thing if you're 43 games out of 1st place, that's horrible, right? That's bad enough. And so they're 43 games out of 4th place in their division. They're going to end up scoring one of the lowest run production teams in the history of the game. They're going to give up some of the most runs given up. We were talking the other day about, the Oakland A's, and they're 30 games behind the Oakland A's this year. The A's are blowing 66 games this year. It has been so bad. And here's the kicker. Chris Getz, their general manager, addressed the media the other day, and he said, oh, by the way, we're not going to be really participating heavily in the free agent market this winter. And so we've got young kids that need some runway to play. Let me tell you what, they're going to be worse next year.
No.
They got a chance to be worse. Yes,
how?
Yes. Because remember, they traded away probably 8 players that other teams thought might help them make the playoffs. Those were veteran guys with contracts. They're gone. They're just going to be all young kids next year. At some point, they're going to trade Luis Robert. They may trade Crochet at some point, too. They should. Because, Crochet, they got 3 more years of control. To what? So in 3 years, they're going to win 67 games. And Crochet will win 16 of them, and he'll be the best pitcher on the team, and then losing to free agency. They've got to trade him at some point. They're going to get worse next year because they won't have any of the experienced players that they had, and they're just going to have a bunch of kids who don't know how to play and win. They've got a chance for this to be worse next year. And remember, by the way, when you think about rebuilding, their first chance at a draft pick is the 11th pick overall in the draft because they've been in the top 10 for the last 3 years, and so they now can't be in the top 10 this year in the draft, even though they have the worst record. And so, the idea of rebuilding and what they don't understand, like it's so ridiculous. What you don't understand, what you do is you go out and sign veteran free agents to a 1-year deal, and then you trade them at the deadline. You cut your cost, and what you do, it's a way for you to buy prospects beyond the draft. To be able to trade the 1-year wonders who come in and play well for you, that a team like a Michael Lorenzen, you sign them next year, you bring them in, put them in your rotation, you trade them at the deadline, you bring in another prospect. And effectively what you're really doing is you're spending that money on Major League salary that ultimately turns into a prospect. But they're not even thinking of it in those terms with it either. It's just, it is so short-sighted. The owner, Gerry Reinsdorf, came out and said that everybody's disappointed with what's going on here. We'll do something different next year and bring in try to compete, because the best way to teach young players how to win at the major league level is to actually win a few games while you're doing it and learn how to, finish something off. They're not doing that. They've blown the most games with a lead after 6 innings, most with the lead after 7 innings, and most with the lead after 8 innings this year. Every component of the game has been the worst in baseball.
Steve, if they offered you a ton of money to get out of broadcasting with a team, would you do it?
Oh, absolutely.
I love it.
I would 100%. How much are we talking, though? Let's negotiate here. Yes, absolutely, I would, because I love the opportunity. It's a blank chalk, it's a blank board right now, and you've got nothing but the opportunity. I would try to be so creative, find talent anywhere I can find talent. Be creative, claim guys on waivers. I'd make trades. I would sign veteran free agents. I'd trade them at some point to get the best prospect I can. I'd start to fortify my farm system, but I would protect the kids at the major league level so that they're not getting their teeth knocked in and they lose all the confidence that they have, which is already probably not much because they're just getting to the big leagues.
Oof, man.
Yeah. Steve, you were talking about this team like, they don't have any good players. Like, it's funny. I played on an expansion team, and then, guys from expansion team, they call it picking at the carcass. So managers would be like, okay, that player could fit into our system, that player. But it just seems like, will a lot of these players not make it, or is it just because they're young and rebuilding that they're going to take their lumps? Because it doesn't sound like they got a lot of promising players at the major league level that you as a manager would go, I need that guy on my team.
No, right. They're playing a lot of role players in starting roles right now, is what they're doing. And so what they need to take the players that they traded for, many of whom are in the minor leagues, keep developing them, keep fortifying with their own drafts and filling in the holes along the way. Trade where you can trade, bring in talent where you can bring in talent. You've got to score big on a crochet deal. And I would consider it even this offseason, because at the deadline, his value was depleted by some teams because he had thrown so many innings that he wasn't going to be able to start for them. And so, but in the offseason, they can look at him as a starter. They can figure out how they want to manage him next year. You can get full value for him. I think you have to do that. If it's me, I'm trading him this offseason. And where everybody wants to get out there and start throwing dollars at free agent pitchers, offer somebody where they're giving up prospects and not dollars, where the owner's not going to balk at it. He's going to be an affordable pitcher you can control for 3 years. So I think I would trade Luis Robert this winter too. You might as well take it down to the studs and do it, but then bring in some experienced 1-year contracts, give guys opportunities, the Kevin Pillars of the world. Like Kevin Pillar had a heck of a year with the Angels. When he was given up, because he's a guy who's going to go out there, he's gritty, he's tough, he's going to battle. The Tommy Phams of the world, who go out there and they battle, they want to win, they fight, and just give me a team with some grit that is going to represent our city and not just tank game after game.
with Steve Phillips, our TSN MLB insider. Bo Bichette returned last night. Had a couple of hits. He looked good to me. What did you see out of Bo? And what do you make of his comments yesterday that he's now going to work with his dad again? I guess
listening to his
dad again because he had stopped doing that for quite some time.
Yeah. Here's the reality of what goes on at the major league level today. It seems like everybody has their own personal hitting coach. And it's really frustrating for major league hitting coaches because sometimes the messages are not in sync. And what the team wants the player to do doesn't match what the personal hitting coach wants him to do. Now, I thought it was, a little peculiar when they actually brought Dante Bichette in uniform and had him work. It just, to me, that's such an uncomfortable thing. First, the marriage is great, but the divorce is ugly. Like when you finally get to the point that it doesn't really work for us anymore, it becomes awkward, right? With the player that you just told his dad he couldn't be around anymore. And so he's going to listen to his dad. And look, his dad's got experience. All of these players whose dad, and the Jays have a lot of them whose dads play in the big leagues, they're worth listening to them as long as it doesn't confuse the player with what he's hearing on a daily basis from the team's hitting people, from what the dad's telling him in his ear.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. I mean, I hadn't thought of that from a perspective of what that message is sending towards, the Jays staff. What does that mean? I'm listening. Let's say they're looking at tape and saying, listen, I don't like the way this is working with your swing, but Dante likes the way it's working with the swing.
That's where the problem
Who's going to win?
Man.
Yeah, who's going to win that battle?
Right.
And who is Bo Bichette responsible to? You'd think historically it would be the team, but maybe he's saying that won't be the case.
My experience, guys. Yeah, here's my experience. First, look, seems like almost everybody has their own hitting guy. His just happens to be his dad. So it's not just unique to Bo Bichette. This is something that goes on for every team where they all have somebody they work with in the off season, or they call in during the season to reflect back on what they worked on. And Aaron Judge has got some 65-year-old guy out there who takes them through these funky drills every year. I guess it works, but I think that it's just really difficult to manage. And when I was with the team, I had players who, I brought in, like Robbie Alomar had a hitting guy that was with him in Cleveland. Now, when I traded for him, I'm like, I don't allow that. I don't let those guys come in here. Mo Vaughn had Mike Easler as his hitting guy. And, he in Los Angeles, they let him bring him into the batting cages. I'm like, no, I don't do that. I respect my coaches, our people. I'm not going to have them compromised by everybody having an individual person coming in. Now, I'm a little rigid when it comes to that stuff. I'm a little inflexible. I didn't get letting players travel home the day before, so the Sunday ends a homestand, and you're going to go on a road trip. You're off on Monday. I didn't go for players flying out Saturday night, pitchers not being with the team on Sunday, and just meeting the team on Tuesday, wherever we're going to on the road. But Roger Clemens did that. Randy Johnson did that. The Yankees let him do it. I would never let that happen. I just thought, I can't have special rules for one guy and a separate set of rules for the other 24. Like, my thought is the rules are the same for everybody. The consequences might be different. If you're a superstar, I'm not going to release you. If you're the 26th man on the roster, you do something quirky, I might just cut you loose. And so the rules are the same, but I'm going to punish the veteran guy in some way. I just think that it's really hard nowadays. And it's a big part of what behind the scenes goes on, trying to manage the players while they're being coached up by some other people as well.
Steve, we were talking about Bowden Francis before you came on. How excited would you be about him next year if you were Jays management? Like, would you secretly be like, this guy could be our ace in the hole and ultimately become that guy for us? Would you be kind of quietly hoping that?
Yeah, I would be. But what I would just do is think, in relation to my team, I feel really good about my starting pitching right now, right? So I'm happy to slot him in at number 4 with the veteran guys in front of him and let him just grow from there, where there's no pressure to have to be an ace of a staff. Just go out there and do it. You've got these veterans to learn from, to listen to. Let them take the heat for things. You just go out there and compete. But, yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking, man, this kid's really got a chance to turn into something. Now, he doesn't have overpowering stuff, right? So you're like, there's number one guys. You look at Paul Skeens, who's got that overpowering stuff to be able to dominate hitters. Jared Jones for the Pirates has got better stuff than Bowden Francis, but he knows how to pitch. He knows how to hit a spot, whether he becomes a number one or a number two or a 2A sort of pitcher. I think that he's part of the solution for the long term when building a rotation.
All right, Steve, we always appreciate you doing this, buddy. We'll do it soon.
All right, you got it, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Steve Phillips, our TSN Baseball Insider. Yeah, that makes sense. You can have Barrios, you can have Gausman, Bassett. I think Bassett will be back. I'd be shocked if they moved off Bassett. It's been kind of an interesting year with him.
That wouldn't shock me either, man. Where it's just like, you kind of had a rough one, so did we watching it, so let's figure something else
Let's cut ties here and move in a different direction.
Wouldn't shock me at all.
Would not
Could
surprise
they
me
get
at
something
all.
for him, though?
Yeah,
like, would he
for
be...
sure. Still veteran arm,
Yeah.
gives you innings. You know, he hasn't had a great year. It hasn't been awful, but I wouldn't be shocked if they moved off that. But I think, Gausman, Barrios, Francis, they might bring Bassett back. If they do, there's your 1 through 4, and you figure out, what you're going to do with that fifth spot, what you're going to do in the bullpen. There's a lot of heavy lifting to do here. But, that White Sox team, man, it's just astonishing how bad they are. And that is a crazy statement that Steve said they could be worse next year. Like, that seems pretty much impossible.
It seems like you couldn't possibly do that to your fan base. Like, no one would allow that to happen.
That's the better way of putting it.
Yeah, like it's one thing to go home for the off season and say, tough year. But it's like, that would be embarrassing. Like, you're playing in the big leagues, living a dream, and it's such a cool thing to do, and everyone's in awe of it. You say White Sox, people are like, oh, man.
Yeah,
like
joke.
It'd be embarrassing.
Punchline.
Yeah, it would be
to
tough.
do it for a second year. You have to invest in some capacity to get a little bit better. Get to 50
jarring.
wins.
That's jarring that he actually said they could be worse next year. Like, that's off. Somebody at some point, the owner or somebody's got to go, we can't do this again.
The owner's Gerry Reinsdorf. He's owned that team forever. He owns the Bulls, I believe. He's just not an owner that seems to really care that much. I mean, I don't know
Was
how
that a tax
how else to
write-off
put it.
for him, or like what
I
is-
don't
like,
know
it's
what the
crazy.
story is. He's been the owner there forever, and you would think he would be the one to say, "I'm embarrassed by this." Like, here's
never
$100
again.
million. Go find me like 6-7 players that will get us to 60 wins. Like you got to give me something here. But again, based on what the GM was saying, maybe that's not what you would be preparing for. And if that's the case, opening day they probably sell out. Day 2 of the White Sox, like opening weekend homestand, will have like 400 people in attendance. Nobody is going to be there. And how could you blame fans for not wanting to show up?
Yeah.
All right, Jerry's After Dark still to come. Again, the President's Cup. We're there next week. Next week we're going to be there. We're broadcasting live from the President's Cup in Montreal, and we want you to be there too. If you heard the keyword announced this morning on First Up, call us right now at 416-870-1050. 416-870-1050. The first caller through with today's keyword will qualify for the trip. You could win flight, accommodations, $500 spending cash, and 2 tickets to see the world's top players compete at the Royal Montreal Golf Club. Full details at tsn1050.ca. So I haven't looked at the weather app yet. I don't want to look at it, but I've been told through the grapevine the weather's looking good in Montreal.
Dude, I think
that's
we're going to
a big
have
part of
another
it.
2 months of butter weather. Feels it. It's humid. It's gorgeous out.
You know what's crazy is where people get their information, because I've had multiple people that I really like, really respect, talking about how they get their information based on bees and some guy who runs like a beehive, and he's picking up on trends. Like, this is Al's brother type stuff. Like, well, the bees are doing this, so I think it's going to be a good winter or a bad winter.
You got to come clean. Who's telling you that?
I'm not going to name names.
I want to never speak
your
to
neighbor.
that
No,
person.
I'm not naming names. These are
your
people
neighbor.
that that I have a lot of time for, a lot of respect for. Brilliant, incredibly amazing people. And they're like, yeah, there's something going on here with this beehive. I'm like, Okay, I got to get in on the B trends, man.
Gino Retta. Gino Retta told you that.
It wasn't Gino. It was not Gino. All right, Jerry's After Dark still to come. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel still to come as well. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel later in the hour. Little Jerry's After Dark later in the hour as well. Maple Leaf camp opening today. I've got a little Battle Royale for you guys. All right, a little Battle Royale on day one of camp. Okay, these are camp storylines that I think will prevail over the next couple of weeks. And many of these stories will probably be topical for the whole season. But I'm going to pit two different stories against each other. We'll go around the table. You guys tell me which one is more compelling for you. All right. Which one it piques your interest, okay? If these were two clickbait statements, you'd say, all right, that's one I'm going to touch. That's the one I want to see what's up. All right, let's begin here. First story, first Battle Royale. Can Joseph Woll stay healthy versus is Easton Cowan ready for the NHL? Which one is more compelling to you?
I'm going to give Joseph Woll the noodles because that's his territory, and Easton Cowan fascinates me.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, I get it, it's junior hockey, but sometimes you're just a really good player and you can play in the big leagues. Not looking at your driver's license on the way into the building, just can you play or not? And I think there's a chance that he can do it.
Yeah,
so we'll see.
I mean, that's compelling. They don't have a problem scoring. I mean, they do in the playoffs technically, but I mean, that's a different. I'm saying like the Toronto Maple Leafs have enough guys up front that can find the back. They don't know. Like I kept saying this, who is stopping pucks for them consistently, night in and night out? Who's money in the bank? When you go, hey, Winnipeg Jets, well, there's Hellebuck. When you go Tampa, outside the Vasilevsky injury, the guy's been, played 60 games a year. When you think Toronto Maple Leafs, who's stopping pucks for you? It was a guy they put on waivers and then gave him a reset. Like Jack Campbell moved on. Like it's been, for me, it's Joseph Woll. Can he stay healthy and prove that he can be a one or at least a tandem, a really good tandem goaltender in this league?
Yeah, I mean, listen. If Woll's not healthy, they're in big trouble. Because I don't know if Stollerts is capable of starting 50-plus games and being a number one. Maybe he can be. Maybe he will be. We'll see. And someone's going to have to play. But I think the bigger impact on this team is Joseph Woll, more so than Easton Cowan. Even if Cowan makes the team, Woll clearly is going to have a bigger impact on the season. But Woll is playing. Woll is not trying out. They've given him a 3-year extension. If he's healthy, he's playing.
Yeah.
For camp, it's Cowan for me. Because the new piece, the number one prospect, I'm really curious to see what this kid's got. Like, he's a really intriguing story because it felt like a reach when they got him. Then last year, he's the best player in the Canadian Hockey League. He's from Ontario, grew up a Leaf fan. Like, there's a lot of those stories that pique the interest of a lot. Maybe it's hokey at times, but I think people in Toronto appreciate it, myself included. I want to see what he's got. I hope they give him a legit opportunity and play him with someone who can play. Right? Like maybe play him on a line. If Willie's going to play with Max Domi, I'm assuming Matthews will play with Marner. Put Cowan with John Tavares and let's see what they got.
Yeah.
Like put him with JT and say, let's see what you guys got. And let him have that opportunity. All right. Leafs Camp Stories Battle Royale number 2. Who plays second line center versus how does Max Pacioretty fit? Which one's more intriguing to you?
Interesting.
Yes, quite the Battle Royale.
That's a good one.
All right.
I'm going to take the second line center because they've got a guy who this is the second experiment with it, and the last one didn't work for very long. Whose decision, I don't know. Maybe the coaches, but it didn't go, so they're doing it again. And then it brings up you got a guy there when we all knew this day was coming, but he makes a lot of money and he's not good enough to play second line center, so you're moving somebody else and like you got to get someone else. Mm-hmm. That's an intriguing storyline. So ultimately it leaves you with a question mark. Like what do you have here? Do you have a winger that can fill the position and want to do it and do it well? Can the guy have a resurgence that was your former captain and he can do it very well or he can't? It's that to me is an intriguing situation to watch throughout training camp and into the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me it's the second line center as well because I think Pacioretty would be a nice story, but you're not going to be relying on him to be, the captain of the team or be this massive leader for the team. He will be, if he makes the team and he's a nightly guy, he'll be farther down in the lineup, if you ask me. So it's the second line, because if this team wants to go deep into the playoffs, they've got the top of the roster has to be set for the most part.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is a lot like the first one, Wall versus Cowan, where, Pacioretty's, new blood. He shows up, former captain of the Habs. All right, what do you have coming off injuries? But the second line center is a way more important position. Yeah. And I do think this brings into play a lot of different players. Whether Nylander can handle it, if Domi's on his wing, can Domi find a way to be kind of a winger / center? Are they going to have to feed off each other and in different zones play different roles? What does this mean for Tavares? What kind of message is this, Tavares? I really do think this is them saying collectively as an organization, like this, we don't have a second line center. Like if you're putting Willie there, you're basically saying doesn't mean John can't do it. It doesn't mean Tavares isn't good enough to be a second line center on a team that makes the playoffs.
Saying they don't want to do it.
But it's like we can't. I don't know if they think they can win a cup if John Tavares is playing 18, 19 minutes on the second line against the second best line and the second best pairing. That it says it's a big statement and it's a big role to play, and I think it's going to have a pretty significant impact on how this team comes out of the gate and what they do throughout the year. All right, Battle Royale number 3 of Lee's Camp Stories. Will Berube give them a new coach bump versus how will Matthews handle being captain?
I want to go new coach bump for me. I think that's, we talked about other teams getting it. We haven't seen it for the Leafs. Like, did Sheldon give them a new coach bump? I guess he won in Arizona.
He came on halfway through the year, right? And then COVID hit. Like, he really got jammed the way he started his run here.
Well, he's also in a favorable position considering they hated the other guy.
Yes, that's true, too. With Babcock leaving, that was a bump in and of itself.
Yeah.
For the players.
I'm going to say the new coach bump. That's where I'm looking at.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Austin Matthews. Like, the captain in this city, fair or unfair, it's a prestigious position. Like, it's just looked upon like you got to play well, you got to play hard, you got to do all the right things, and you got to kind of have answers for what's going on. And it's not for everybody, right? And Austin, I don't think not that he's uncomfortable, but I don't think he loves it in front of them. I don't think any of those guys do. But you got to have some answers, and you got to think about what you're saying, and it's often, and you also have to continue to bring it on the ice. So it's always a position in this market that I would be curious about.
Yeah, it's a great honor. I mean, it should be looked upon that way, and it's one that you take. It's bestowed from the team, and it's your teammates and the ownership and management all saying this is who you are and this is the role we want you to have. You don't get paid extra too. That's what I find more pure about the captaincy conversation. He doesn't get an extra $1 million because he's the captain. There's no negotiation. It's you're the captain because it's a great honor and this is a great team and it's a great sports market, and go out there and be that guy. And I am intrigued to see if it. I don't think it's going to change him, but I think what it could do is change the conversation around him. And what's expected of him, where he stands within the pecking order of the team, the media. So I would lean towards Matthews as well because of what he represents to the city.
And keep in mind, it is a big responsibility. Your leadership skills will be on display as well. That's the other thing. It's not just say, go out and score goals, be a great player, be all of that. He's going to have to talk and be front and center for this team, not just in the good times, in the bad times, and maybe have to drop the hammer here or there, have a be a difference maker with his teammates.
I think you can drop the hammer on the ice, Jamie, and say, when need be, this is the response we need.
Yeah,
like go out there and set the tone. He's a big, strong dude, and he can set the tone physically. I know that's not been a part of his game, but that's what he can do. And as a leader, it's an easy thing to do. Not just to say, hey, guys, we have to have a good second period here. Well, no kidding. But when everyone sees the captain going out and it's like urgency, it's physicality, it's playing for keeps, that's what you want.
Well, and this is, I think, where you can blend these two topics together, where we've discussed this a lot, how Berube is going to maybe ask his players to do things differently. Right. And this is the guy he's going to first. You got to go to this guy first. Like, any coach would know that. Craig Berube is not stupid. You go to 34 first and say, listen, I need an extra hit out of you. I need a block shot out of you. Because I need you to do it first. And that's where I wish I could be a fly in the wall, because that's a chat I would have loved.
If he doesn't do it, it's hard to get people to buy in and follow the lead. That's the whole point, man. That's it. If you want to prove, you want to show your captaincy ability immediately, that's the way to do it, is sink in with whatever the coach is asking the whole team to do. Yeah. And I think he'll probably do that. Again, he's not going to fight. He's not, like, that's not who he is. It's not going to happen. None of these guys are going to do that. But he can throw hits.
Yeah.
He can get involved in a scrum in protect his teammates in ways that I think can go a long way in Craig Berube getting his message across through that one player.
Agreed.
And I think they've got to be in sync, and I expect that they will be. All right, here's another one. This is more of a projection on the season. Will Austin Matthews score 60-plus goals again versus will Mitch Marner have his best season ever? Which one are you chomping at the bit to talk about as camp opens today?
Mitch Marner, what's the other option?
Matthews scoring 60-plus again.
I'd rather – I've seen that already. Twice.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen it twice.
Yeah, he scored 60 twice. He's never actually scored in the 50s before. It's like he blows past 50. Mm-hmm. It's either a COVID season, an injury, and he ends up with 40-something, or 60. Because I think he had 60 in the nose or 61, and then he had 69 last year.
I'd like to see the Marner turn into a success story. Like I said, fantastic. One of the best players in the world. Him and all of his other teammates, they just have to get it done. They claim they love it here. Well, there's one way to keep the band back together is go out there and make a run. And that's what I would like to see.
That's the one. It's Marner for me, too.
Yeah, it's Marner for me.
Have a great year. Go out there and just crush it.
We've seen Matthews. I think Marner hasn't gotten 100 points yet. Like, he's capable of doing that. And again, points don't mean that much. Be rounded players. But still, if you have your best statistical season, that might carry over into the playoffs, too.
Yeah, that would probably go a long way. Feel good about your game in the regular season, carry it over.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. We got any other Battle Royale stories you got? You guys want to throw anything on the fly? Or
defense, are we locked in defense?
I think so. I mean, I guess my question on defense is who is the fourth guy in the top four? Because Riley, Tanev, McCabe are in the top four. Those are their three defensemen that are going to play a lot, play in many situations. Let's assume Riley and Tanev play together. Who's playing with McCabe? Is Ekman
Larson?
Is Ekman Larson? Is that the position you want to be in? I mean, I think they'll give him a shot.
Pretty good player, man.
Yeah, he was good, but he was also on the third pairing the majority of the year at Florida. You know, like he moved around at times, but Florida utilized him well because they didn't have to force him into bad situations. They allowed him to get his career kind of back on track. And
I think this Simon Benoit kid would be best suited in a third line pairing, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. You're either putting Hockenpah with McCabe or you're putting Ekman Larson.
I think
Hockenpah's not playing yet.
Yeah, I think that's another. A, he's not playing. B, I don't think he's not a top four guy either. Probably is Ekman Larson. Like Benoit and McCabe, I thought were a good pair last year. Like Benoit was a great story. It was a great story. I really liked watching him play, and he plays.
If you're looking at a team with Def Hayes, that's your third pairing. Those two guys.
Yes, Benoit McCabe is your third pairing.
Yes,
then do you slide? Do you change that and go Ekman Larson Liljegren as your second pairing? That's the thing.
I don't know, man. I don't love the idea of Timothy Liljegren. I think Liljegren can be a top four guy during the regular season in the right matchups. But you play a big, bold, tough team that's ready to rock. Liljegren's got to prove he can play comfortably in that. And I'm not convinced he can, but we'll see. But, yeah the defense core, again, I think they've improved, certainly on paper. But Benoit's like Bobby McMahon. They got to prove that he's got to prove he can do it again. Like that it wasn't just a magical season. that he can't continue to play. Ekman Larson needs to continue to play with the physical bite that he had last year in Florida. Hockenpaugh's got to stay healthy, but they do have options, and they have a number of guys who are suited properly in terms of left shot, right shot. That's pretty significant, too, if Berube believes in that, and most coaches do. All right, there you go. Battle Royale. Camps are open. All right, Jerry's After Dark coming up. Best Bets brought to you by FanDuel. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Welcome to Jerry's After Dark, where all of your wildest hot takes come to life. Because Jerry's always in the mood for one more, and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
All right, Jerry's After Dark. Jerry's in the mood for one more.
Mega horny.
Hot take. Let's hear from Jerry one more time.
Nate McKinnon was a rock star last year, and he'll follow that up with another top 3 nomination for the Hart Trophy.
Double down for Nate the Great.
Could see that.
It's hard to go against that. I'm going to go 85% yes. He's too good. He's too good, and he's too determined not to. Because you know that guy wants another cup, and he won't rest until he gets a 2-pack.
Yeah.
He did the old, winning it once, and now he's like, I got to get 2. He's probably come up with some dumb excuse to make it mandatory for him to be a success. He has to have 2.
Yeah.
He's just too good, man.
He's
like
so
that
good.
guy,
He's
like
so
he
good.
is as good as McDavid is, and we've all determined that he is far and away the best player in the world. Like Nate McKinnon might be a 0.5 under it. Like he's just as far as skill set and the way he plays. Man,
he's
he's good.
unbelievable.
He's incredible. He's an
Yeah.
incredible player.
I could see it happening. I mean, it's tough, back to back, but I mean, Colorado, I think in the offseason, I still think 2 things for them: Nichushkin and Landeskog. Landeskog skating. Like, if you could get him back in that lineup, I think he's really key from a leadership standpoint. Because McKinnon's very, very vocal. He's very, very intense on his teammates, and I think Landeskog is a guy that kind of balances that room. I heard in the offseason he's a big key to the success of that team. So it'll be interesting. I think McKinnon, top 3. I'm low on this. There's just too many good players.
That's the thing. Like I think McDavid gets in there. I think, and then beyond that, it's up for grabs. But why couldn't Matthews do it? Why couldn't Draisaitl do it? Why couldn't Kucherov do it? I mean, there's just so many great players, McKinnon included. But the idea of going back to back into the top 3
might be his teammate Makar.
Possibly, maybe Rantanen. Who knows? I mean, it's overdue for a defenseman to get back into that top 3.
Man, Makar is going to go bonkers this year.
I
I
think
can't
so,
even
too.
imagine how good that guy
He's
is going to
so
be.
good.
And he's probably pissed that Quinn Hughes got a lot of love last year, much deserved, but he's going to be like, well, yeah, hold my beer.
Yep. I'm
that's
20% that McKinnon's top 3 again. 20%, which is still like I can't even say I'm 100% McDavid's top 3 because you never know. Like you can't be 100% committed. Could there be 3 guys with a better season? Possibly. Could there be an injury? Could there be load management? Does he slow it down the stretch? I don't know. I mean, obviously he's got the best odds and he should, but nothing's guaranteed in pro
He
sports.
just continues to do something. As soon as you think, maybe he'll go bonkers. And
Well, he had
how old
100
is he?
assists last year.
All right, what is he, 28, 27?
Yeah.
He's got a 5-year span here where he can continue to go bonkers and be the best he's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
27? Like, that is right in the prime.
Yes, wheelhouse time. Wheelhouse. All right, today's Best Bets powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Bowden Francis over 5 strikeouts tonight. Love Bowden and his cookie duster on the mound tonight. Under in the first inning. 0.5 runs in the first inning for the game. I'm under. I think this goes under tonight. I know the bats were so alive last night. Better pitchers tonight. I think Francis shows up. I love watching him pitch. He's on the mound for the Jays. That is your Best Bets. Powered by FanDuel tonight. The first inning means as much as the ninth when you best bet or when you bet baseball on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. Please play responsibly. 18 plus. Physically located in Ontario. All right, the Leafs hit the ice tomorrow. Jays in action tonight. Toronto FC See what other bombshell news items drop between now and 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon.
We got a Battle of Ontario Friday night.
Just right into it, eh?
Starts right away. I mean, they're not going to dress full lineups or whatever. I hate these first couple games because the home team dresses like some recognizable players. The road team just sends scrubs, and
Where is that game? Is it in Ottawa or Toronto?
I don't even know.
I don't know
Let me check
either.
the schedule.
They probably play black to black. It's in Ottawa on Sunday, Toronto on Sunday. Okay, so Ottawa Friday. Ottawa's getting that new rink too, right? Like that sounds like it's finally happening, which is big.
That would be nice.
Yes, get downtown, and we got to give a shout out before we get out of here. You see our boy Matt Stajan.
Yes.
Stage has been hired to the hockey staff out in Colorado as a skills consultant.
Woo.
Yeah.
Love it.
He had great hands, dump and chase, better than anybody in the league.
I agree.
Love it. Okay,
Love
so
that.
we're gonna have
Just
to
line
get
everybody
Stage on.
up at the red line and dump it in and go get it.
Calgary. Did I not say Calgary? I
Yeah,
thought
you
I
said Colorado.
Oh, I said Colorado. Sorry. He never played in Colorado. Calgary.
Yeah.
Matt Stage.
We love Stage, and he'll be great at that job.
Yes,
He will be.
Outstanding. Shout out to Stage. All right.
Exactly.
Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in today, TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy the games tonight. We're back tomorrow at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.